Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I thank my good friend, the gentleman from Indiana, for allowing me to have the time. Madam Speaker, as a co-sponsor of H.R. 2499, the Puerto Rico Democracy Act, I'd like to take some time this evening to dispel some of the myths that surround this legislation. The Puerto Rico Democracy Act provides for a formal consultation with the people of Puerto Rico regarding the island's political status. H.R. 2499 authorizes the government of Puerto Rico to conduct an initial plebiscite. Eligible voters would be asked whether they wish to maintain the current political status or to have a different status. If the majority favors the current status, then the government of Puerto Rico would be authorized to ask voters this question again at 8-year intervals. On the other hand, if a majority of the voters favor a different status, the government of Puerto Rico would be authorized to conduct a second plebiscite among the three non-territorial status options recognized under U.S. and international law. What are those three options? They are, number one, independence, two, statehood, and three, sovereignty in association with the U.S., which is commonly known as free association. Opponents of this bill of H.R. 2499 contend that the two-step process stacks the deck against the current status and in favor of statehood. This is simply not the case, Madam Speaker. H.R. 2499 does not exclude nor favor any status option. Under this legislation, the purpose of the first plebiscite is clear: to inform Congress whether the majority of Puerto Ricans consent to the current political status. Only if a majority of voters express their desire to change the current status is a second vote mandated on the three alternatives: independence, statehood, and free association. This two-step process was recommended by the President's Task Force on Puerto Rico's status. This task force was initiated under the Clinton administration and finalized by the Bush administration. The task force called upon the expertise of 16 federal agencies in recommending a fair process for consulting with U.S. citizens of Puerto Rico. Opponents of 2499 propose that the option of an enhanced Commonwealth should be included as a status option during the second plebiscite. Well, this enhanced Commonwealth, as envisioned by the bill's detractors, perpetuates the false hope that Puerto Ricans can have the best of both worlds. They can have U.S. citizenship and national sovereignty. They will receive all federal funds and have the power to veto those laws with which it disagrees. If included as a viable option, an enhanced Commonwealth proposal would permanently empower Puerto Rico to nullify federal laws and court jurisdiction and to enter into an international organization and trade agreements, all while being under the military and financial protection of the United States. It is no surprise that this proposal has been soundly rejected as a viable option by the U.S. Department of Justice, the State Department, the Clinton administration, and the Bush administration. Another misguided concern surrounding H.R. 2499 is that the bill fails to include an English-only provision. It is premature to discuss this matter until the conclusion of the first and second plebiscite. H.R. 2499 does not require the Congress to admit Puerto Rico as a state, nor even to set the statehood process in motion if a majority of voters ultimately chose statehood. If the people of Puerto Rico express a preference for statehood, and if Congress is inclined to act upon that preference, further federal legislation would be required. That legislation, and not H.R. 2499, would be the appropriate vehicle in which to address any potential language-related condition on Puerto Rico's ascension to statehood. I would like now to change focus and highlight the overwhelming bipartisan support behind H.R. 2499. Introduced by the resident commissioner, this bill enjoys the backing of more than 180 co-sponsors from both political parties and is strongly supported by Puerto Rico's Governor Luis Fortuño, a former House colleague who introduced similar versions of this bill in the past. This bill is also endorsed by numerous leaders in the Puerto Rican legislature and local government, including the Speaker of the House of Representatives and many other local officials. Given the strong support, Madam Speaker, I hope that my colleagues join me in supporting this bill when it comes to the floor vote later this week. Thank you for the time, Madam Speaker.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Indiana